Audrey Werro stepped onto the track in Paris on Sunday night, and nobody in that stadium fully understood what they were about to watch. There were bigger names in the conversation. There were athletes with longer careers, more titles, more history. And then the gun went off. By the time Werro hit the 500-meter mark, something shifted. The race stopped being a competition and turned into something else entirely. Something that left even the second-place finisher, one of the best 800 meters runners on the planet right now, completely powerless to respond. What happened in those final 300 meters at the Charlotte Stadium is going to be talked about for a long time. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why. If you do not know Audrey Werro yet, here is the short version. She is 22 years old. She is from Fribourg, Switzerland. And 3 weeks before Paris, she ran a time in Stockholm that put the entire women's 800 meters world on notice. She is not a veteran with 10 years of Diamond League experience behind her. She does not have an Olympic gold medal in her cabinet. She has not been a household name in athletics for years. What she does have is a level of speed over the final lap that very few women in history have been able to match. That speed did not appear out of nowhere. She has been building toward moments like this, improving her personal best, becoming the kind of runner that coaches and competitors start scouting in detail before a race. The trajectory this season alone has been steep, and once you see what she did in Stockholm 3 weeks ago, Paris stops feeling like a surprise and starts feeling like a pattern. Paris was not her first Diamond League win this season. It was her third in a row. No Swiss woman had ever done that before her. Not one. And yet, heading into Sunday night, Femke Bol was the name most people were watching. That is where the story gets interesting. Femke Bol is not someone you take lightly in any race that involves running fast for 2 laps. The Dutch athlete built her reputation as a 400-meter runner and a 400 meters hurdler, one of the best in the world at both. But over the last couple of years, she moved up to 800 meters and showed the world she could compete there too. The transition was not a gimmick. She brought genuine 800 meters speed, the kind that comes from having a 400 meters base that most women at that distance simply do not have. Coming into Paris, she was a genuine threat, the kind of name that makes other athletes uncomfortable at the start line. Werro knew who she was lining up against. The field knew. The crowd knew. The race was set up to be a showcase. Fast pace, strong field, a proper contest. There were pacers out front to drag the field through the first lap at speed. The conditions were set for something fast. On paper, Bol was the headliner. Werro was the woman who had been turning heads all season, but this was the bigger stage, and this was a bigger test. What nobody was fully prepared for was just how one-sided the second half of that race was about to become. The first 400 meters were controlled. The pace was honest, but no one had made a decisive move yet. Werro sat in the pack, watching, conserving. This is not unusual for her. She is not a front-runner who burns through the first lap and hangs on. Werro pushed. Not a gradual build, not a gentle acceleration. She pushed hard, moved to the front, and started creating separation. At that point, in an 800 meters race with 300 meters left, you either have the legs to respond or you do not. Bol did not have the legs to respond. The gap opened through the final bend. Werro's form held. Her stride stayed long and controlled while the rest of the field started to labor. By the time they entered the home straight, this was no longer a race for the win. The race for the win was over. Werro was alone. She crossed the line and looked at the clock. 1 minute, 53 seconds, and 80 hundredths. Bol crossed second. She ran a massive personal best, 1:55.60. Under normal circumstances, that would be the headline. Those two performances are the story. On this night, they were not even close to the story. Let's put 1:53.80 into context. That time is a Diamond League record. It is a Swiss national record. And it makes Werro the third fastest woman to ever run the 800 meters in the history of the event. Third fastest ever. She also became the first woman to go under 1:54 on 2 separate occasions. The first time was 3 weeks ago in Stockholm. She did it again in Paris. Nobody in the history of women's 800 meters running had done that before her. Not once. For 4 decades, every generation of women's 800 meters runners has come and gone without getting close enough to make it feel real. Werro is 52 hundredths of a second away from it, 52 hundredths. In a race that lasts under 2 minutes, that is not a comfortable gap. That is not a gap that feels safe. That is the kind of margin that disappears in the right race, under the right conditions, with the right competitor pushing from behind. After the race, Werro was honest about where she is. She said she was a little late at the 600-meter mark and had to chase the pace light. She was not even perfectly executed, and she still ran the third fastest time in history. That detail should not go unnoticed. The Kratochvilova record has had a long shadow over women's middle distance running set in 1983 in Munich, 1 minute, 53 seconds, and 28 hundredths. People have questioned the record over the years, argued about the context around it. But it is still there, still in the books, still waiting. For most of that time, the gap between it and the best performances in any given season was large enough that the conversation felt distant, like something people discussed in theory without really believing it was close. Werro is making it feel close. She said after Paris that she believes the record is within reach. But she also said something that points directly to what the real requirement is. She said it is easier when she is racing against someone who is as quick as she is. She mentioned Keely Hodgkinson by name. Hodgkinson is the reigning Olympic 800-meter champion. She was not in Paris on Sunday. The two of them have not raced each other this season yet, but both women are targeting the same record, and Werro herself is saying the world record will go when she is in a race with another athlete fast enough to push her through the pain barrier. Think about what that race looks like. Werro and Hodgkinson, both in form, both going after it from the gun, neither one willing to let the other go. That race has not happened yet in 2026. Go back to that moment. Sunday night in Paris, the 500-meter mark. The moment Audrey Werro pushed and nobody on that track pushed back. That moment did not just win a race. It confirmed that something has genuinely shifted in women's 800 meters running. There is a 22-year-old from Freiburg who is faster than almost every woman who has ever run this event in the history of the sport, and she is still getting faster, still improving, as she proved by pointing out that she was late at the 600 meters mark on a night when she ran the third fastest time in history. That is not a runner who has peaked. That is a runner who is still on the way up. She went to Paris, she lined up against one of the most respected names in the field, and she destroyed her. Not by a step, by a margin that made the scoreboard look like two different races happening at the same time. Audrey Werro just destroyed Femke Bol, and the world record that has survived for over 40 years just got a lot closer to its expiry date.